Good evening, Salem, and welcome to the What's Happening Salem Mayoral Debate, streaming live on Capital Community Media. I'm Yurla Ruby Gonzalez Nolan, and joining me tonight is my co-moderator, Ellen Yin. We're so glad you're here with us, whether you're watching from home, on your phone, or gathered with friends somewhere in our Salem community.
Tonight is about you, Salem. This is your debate. Every question you're going to hear was either submitted by a community member who registered for this event or was built directly from research into the real issues facing our city right now. Yurla and I are moderating tonight as fellow ordinary citizens. We are not politicians or political experts, but everyday residents of Salem, just like you, who are bringing our curiosity to this conversation. Here's how tonight works. We have 90 minutes together. Our two candidates will each have 3 minutes to respond to every question. After both candidates speak, we'll ask a follow-up question, usually sourced from the audience, so be live commenting as you're tuning in. And each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. We want real answers, not talking points. That's why the format gives more time than a traditional debate.
Now, before we begin, we want to thank the partners who helped make tonight possible. A big thank you to Mid-Valley Association of Realtors and Jason Fleming of Neo Home Loans for supporting this event and investing in an informed Salem community. And thank you to Capital Community Media for making this conversation accessible to everyone by streaming it live and free across Salem. If you're watching right now, share the stream with someone in your network. The more people who participate in local conversations like this, the stronger our community becomes.
Prior to recording, we did a coin flip to determine speaking order. Mayor Hoy won that coin flip and will be responding second. She chose to respond second. So when we move into the question segment, Councilor Nordike will begin. Before we jump into questions, however, candidates will have 90 seconds to introduce themselves.
Now let's meet tonight's candidates. First, a longtime Salem resident who has called this community home for more than 30 years, a local small business owner and the current mayor of Salem. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Julie Hoy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to the organizers and all of those who are listening live or who will make time to listen later. It's a pleasure and an honor to serve as Salem's mayor. We've faced some difficult times, and we've made a lot of progress in the last year. I ran for mayor because I believed Salem needed to get back to basics. Residents were frustrated, businesses uncertain, and there was growing sense that City Hall had lost focus on its responsibility, the core responsibilities. Local government doesn't need to be flashy or to involve itself in every national and state debate. It does need to be reliable, responsive. It needs to do the fundamentals as well. In short, we need to focus on our tagline, which is at your service. Over the past year, that's been my focus as mayor as I lead a progressive-leaning, politically diverse city council. Despite this dynamic, we've been able to achieve quiet but significant progress that doesn't get the Salem Reporter more clicks, but is helping our city work again. We stabilized a major budget shortfall and began planning the new 5-year financial horizon after we were told the only option was a $500 paycheck. Payroll tax on everyone's paycheck. We strengthened public safety by expanding the homeless services team to 7 days a week, the cleaning service team to 7 days a week as well, and we've launched the REACH Behavioral Health Response Program and hiring more police to improve visibility in the key areas of our city. Thank you.
To keep things fair throughout our conversation, by the way, you'll see this sometimes on your screen as well as you're tuning in from home. There will be a timer counting down, so everyone, will just keep each other accountable for that. Thank you so much. And next, a third-generation Salem attorney, a 14-year veteran of the Oregon Department of Justice, the current director of CASA of Marion County, and the Ward 7 City Councilor since 2019. Please welcome Councilor Vanessa Nordike.
Thank you, Ellen, very much. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you folks for watching at home. I was born and raised in the city of Salem, and I started volunteering here in Salem at age 13, and I've never stopped. I'm now 45 years old, and I've given myself back to this community whenever I can. Although some people may find it hard to believe, I actually grew up painfully shy as a kid, and I've overcome that through a lot of hard work. A lot of rolling up your sleeves, getting involved, whether that means volunteering at our shelters, whether it means leading a nonprofit. I've served in so many different capacities here in the city of Salem. And I really dedicated my career to standing up for others. That's what I did at the Department of Justice. That's what I do now as a nonprofit leader for children in foster care. And if you look back on my 6 years at City Council, I have consistently worked for working people. I know that a lot of Salem residents are living paycheck to paycheck. I fight for our seniors on fixed incomes. I fight for affordable housing. I will be a mayor for all of Salem. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke.
Okay, and I think we're ready to get the show started. Is everybody ready?
You bet.
We're all excited. So we're now moving into our first segment of the evening, which focuses on homelessness and public safety. For this segment, each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond to the main question. After both candidates have answered, we may ask a follow-up question if clarification is needed or if we'd like a candidate to expand on a point. Each candidate will then have 90 seconds to respond. And most of these follow-up questions will be coming from the audience live. Our first question tonight comes directly from Salem residents who submitted questions when they registered for this event. Many of the questions are received centered on homelessness and public safety, which continue to be top concerns across our city. So here's the question. The city recently approved a plan expanding the police homelessness service team, operating the Salem Outreach and Livability Services team 7 days a week, and launching a new fire department crisis response team pairing medical professionals with mental health specialists. That's a significant investment. How do you measure whether it's working, and what does success look like for Salem in 2 years? And we will start with Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you so much, Yurla. That is a crucial question. So many of you watching at home know that I've been fighting for a REACH team since I joined council in 2019. What I learned from our business community, from our people who advocate for the unsheltered community, is that this is one of the few things where there was broad agreement, where people know that there are residents in Salem who are struggling mightily. So for the longest time, there's been a huge need for this. So I am so proud of the fact that we have finally gotten this over the finish line. For those of you who don't know what the REACH team is, it's comprised of Marion County and Salem Fire Department staff, a paramedic, a QMHA or a qualified mental health associate, thank you Marion County, and an EMT. And they are responding to people in the field who are struggling with addiction. People are struggling with homelessness, struggling with mental illness, or maybe all three at the same time. So here's what success looks like for the REACH team. A lower utilization of our emergency room by our highest users. There are some people who call the 911 as their primary medical resource, and we know that ER isn't always the right level of care. We know we'll have success when we are relieving ambulances and fire engines so they can go off and do the work needed for our firefighters to respond to higher acuity calls. We know that when we're reducing overtime costs, which has been a major factor for both our police and fire departments, we know that we will be saving the city money. And boy, do we need to save money. We know when we have more transports to shelter and treatment that it's working. Now, as to the two other programs, I was very proud to support those when they first came to council back in, I want to say 2022. So we've had this garbage team, the Salem Outreach Services team, since roughly that time, if memory serves, as well as the homeless services team. And the homeless services team is comprised of police officers. Now, these police officers have received additional training in trauma-informed de-escalation. That's what we want to see. Our own police chief, Trevor Womack, an outstanding police chief, has said many times, we cannot police our way out of homelessness. We cannot arrest our way out of homelessness. Our jail has 400 to 500 beds. There are well over 1,800 people experiencing homelessness. So jail is not an answer, even if we had enough beds available. But again, our own police chief knows that accountability needs to be a part of the solution, but it's not the only solution. So success will look like, for our garbage team, less trash on our streets. That's an obvious one. Success for our homeless services team will mean less illegal encampments on city property. I voted to ban camping on city property years ago. And in order to enforce that ban, you do need to hire police officers for that role. And council unanimously voted to expand the HST and the SOS team.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Councilor.
Same question? Shall I go ahead, or are you
Yes.
going to read it again?
I can read it again. Would
That's
you like to?
okay. I'm ready. Thank you, Councillor Nordyke, for covering a lot of the details on the services that we are providing and the pathway for how we arrived at this place. It was last summer after the UGM incident, the stabbing there, that I directed staff to report on ways to increase police presence downtown and to improve public safety. I'm proud to see that the Safe, Clean, and Healthy initiative has come to fruition, and it continues to grow in effectiveness. This is just a start, but it's enough to begin to see results. Chief Gerboth reported at last night's council meeting the statistics, the data that we already have on 1 month of service in that regard. We measure how safe residents feel. It increased by 6% last year and across the entire community. We're measuring response times to encampments and safety concerns. We're tracking repeat emergency calls and crisis interventions. Chief Gerboth has told the story about one individual person experiencing crisis who called the 911 system or was called for between March and September over 300 times. That's the kind of behavior we're wanting to help at the deep level. We want to monitor resident perception of safety surveys. We want to monitor downtown business activity and foot traffic. I'll continue to listen, to learn, and to lead and build on this success. What comes? Faster response times, as you said, cleaner public spaces, fewer repeat crisis calls, more people connected to service. And we want downtown to feel active and welcoming again. Success means people comfortable coming downtown to shop, to eat, to attend events, and to spend time with family. One thing I'm excited about is seeing our city council join me in hiring more police officers. I never would have imagined to be sitting here today with Councillor Nordyke voting with me to expand law enforcement. We need more of that. We cannot arrest our way out of this problem, but we do need the right help in the right places at the right time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. And we are going to check if we have a question from the audience. Okay.
If not, I also have some prepared questions.
Yes.
Nothing? All right. A question I would love to ask each of you is if outreach teams repeatedly encounter the same individuals who refuse offer services or, who are continuing to use services in a way that they are not intended to be used, as you both mentioned, emergency services, what should the city do differently?
Okay, shall I go first?
Yes.
Okay.
We can reverse order for that.
Okay, perfect. Actually, it's happening. What we are doing is, and I don't think either one of us described it, but this REACH team goes out in a suburban with a paramedic, an EMT, and a mental health associate. Thanks for the, I always want to say professional, and there is a difference. He's an associate. His name's Nate, and he's amazing. He has a way of interacting with folks that creates a conversation about how they're doing and what's happening. So they're able to get folks, rather than to the emergency room or the jail, to the psychiatric center for care and for the treatment that they need and a plan, a life plan moving forward. It's pretty wonderful to watch. I'm watching that clock. Does that mean I've got that much?
Yep.
Okay.
So 50 seconds
Good.
left. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, we just need to do more of that. We need to be able to reach these people where they are at and get them to the services that they need. The new sobering center is opening up for instance, and the detox upstairs. It's going to be a game changer here in Salem, so we can get folks on that pathway to recovery. There's a lot coming, a lot of hope on the horizon. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Hoy. Would you like me to repeat the question, or are you set?
In a moment. I first want to respond to something Mayor Hoy said when she said that you never would have imagined that I would have voted
Just
to support.
a heads up, to keep things fair,
Yeah.
the follow-up is 90 seconds per candidate.
No
so,
problem.
There
Yeah.
is no, rebuttal period, but you're welcome to include that in your response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So stating you never would have imagined me voting for more police shows you haven't looked at my record. So before you joined council, I have voted time and time again to increase our police budget. After you joined council, when other members of council voted to make cuts to our police department, I voted against those cuts. So I just wanted to respond to that. Now, if you could repeat the question.
Absolutely. Can we pause the timer while I re-ask the question, and then we'll continue? If outreach teams repeatedly encounter the same individuals who refuse offered services, what should the city do differently? And you have 1:09 on the clock. Thank you.
Sure, I appreciate what you're saying on this. So it is true that there are some out there in the community who are service resistant. And in those circumstances, there are many times where it's going to take more than a single touch to get a person to want to change. Change has to come from within. The city can show them the door. The city can present opportunities, and many people have taken advantage of those opportunities. The Navigation Center is a great example of that. I voted to create the Navigation Center quite some time ago, and I want to thank Marion County, who helped us in purchasing that building. As I understand it, the REACH team is going to work with folks and have shelter space available so that people can be offered transportation from being on the streets, which is not safe for anybody. It's not safe for anybody to be on our streets, to be transported to places like the Navigation Center or to Northwest Human Services, where there are amazing staff with lived experience, a trauma-informed approach that works. So what I have to say, based on working with many unsheltered communities over the years, talking with the staff, showing up unannounced at shelters and seeing how things are going, it takes compassion and persistence.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke. All right, next we will address small business and economic vitality. For this segment, we will again reverse the speaking order. So with the original question, since Councilor Nordyke answered first, this time Mayor Hoy, you will answer first. The same format applies. Candidates will have 3 minutes to answer the main question and then 90 seconds each to respond to a follow-up question. If, as demonstrated earlier, if there's a rebuttal that you would like to address your candidate with, go ahead and use the follow-up 90-second window to do so. All right, this question actually comes directly from a Salem resident who recorded it just for tonight, so we'll play that video now.
Hey, my name's Heather Pulley. I'm a small business owner here in Salem, Oregon. I own a small home decor boutique called Found by HG. I have a specific question for you today. Name one specific barrier, regulatory, financial, or otherwise, that Salem small businesses face today, and tell us the exact steps you would take in your first 90 days to address it. Thank you.
Mayor Hoy, you may respond.
Thank you. I'm going to take a few of my seconds here to respond to Councilor Nordyke's response to my response. And that was the $180,000 that was proposed for the HST team donation from the business community. Councilor Nordyke resisted that. And I had a hard time understanding why that would be. It's a way to get more help downtown. On the other hand, if there's $9 million coming for Center 50 Plus over the next 3-year period, nobody had a problem with that. So just want to make that point. The barrier, City Hall's culture of no, frankly, for businesses. For too long, businesses trying to invest in Salem run into a City Hall that feels like an obstacle course. Permitting, slow, unclear processes, and default answers of no. That's not a regulation you can repeal. It's a culture problem, and culture starts at the top. What have we already done? Hired a new city manager, unanimously supported, promoted from within, knows Salem from the inside out, and has been at the city for over 26 years. We've already seen results, $78 million in commercial and industrial construction permits for 850 housing units, streamlined development review process so businesses aren't stuck waiting. In the next 90 days, continue pushing city departments to be partners, not gatekeepers, expanding the one-stop approach so business owners aren't bounced between departments, measure and report permitting timeliness publicly. Accountability drives improvement. If someone is willing to invest in Salem, City Hall should be ready to help them succeed. I don't want another business to open without a sign.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nordyke, your turn.
Absolutely. I voted for the expansion of the homeless services team. Now, in terms of a specific step that I would take, an exact step, going to the question, I would like to create short instructional videos on how to comply with the sign code. We have heard time and time again from our business owners, whether they're in the Chamber of Commerce or not, that our sign code is confusing. It is hard to follow, and people have been caught sideways, doing their best to comply. So I've already started sitting down with business owners who wanted to share with me their concerns. I've gone to their businesses where they could show me exactly what they are talking about. You need a mayor who's willing to meet people where they are, and I already do that and will continue to do that. So after meeting with the business owners themselves and hearing what those concerns look like, I then shared them with the city manager and explained to our city manager, Krishna Namburi, we need to do better. And I was thrilled to see that after hearing conversations and concerns from many members of council and from the business community, that the city manager has already issued a temporary pause in sign code enforcement. And that was a really smart move. So to me, that shows that our city manager understands that this is a serious problem. You know, one of the things that separates our local businesses from the e-commerce giants is that they need a brick and mortar place, right? There's so many of our local businesses depend on an attractive space where people want to go, where they want to shop, where they want to receive a professional service. And having a sign is a part of the deal. So I would like to create short instructional videos intended for busy working people. They're so busy wanting to run their business. And a business is a passion project, right? I mean, when you open your business, you are there to fulfill your dream. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of your destiny. And you want to be busy focusing on why you got into business in the first place, not going back and forth, email after email, fine after fine with our city staff. We can do better than that. So I think short instructional videos is a specific and concrete step we can take to make clear to businesses, this is a sign that works. This is a sign that will get you a fine. Like, have something really clear, really snappy, and by all means make it bilingual. We have a lot of Spanish speakers who have opened their businesses here in the city of Salem. And of course, we need to make translation services available for any other non-native speakers who want to open their business here in town. So instructional videos would be great. Another thing that I think could be useful would be to form a work group with the staff and business owners to simplify the sign code. Who better than the business owners who want to put out signs to sit with the staff and say, these are the things we find the most confusing about our code. These are the things that would really help us. And just help cultivate, like the mayor said, cultivate a more positive culture, a culture of getting to yes, not getting to no.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke.
Okay, and we are checking to see if we have any questions. Okay, we do have a follow-up question from the audience. And this is, do each of you plan to support Oregon's land use laws, and if so, how?
Mm-hmm. And we can reverse order again for that. So since you answered the question originally, we'll have you answer the follow-up question.
Sure. Well, thank you, Eileen, for the question. I appreciate you. I have to say, land use law, if it comes from the state, there's not a lot that cities can do. State law trumps city law, full stop. There's not a lot. Once the state passes a law, whether we like it or not, we must comply with it. So, for example, I've had a lot of folks express concerns about apartment complexes being built without ensuring a parking space for every single unit. And I've had a lot of people express concern about that. And I want to tell people there is a state law that did away with parking mandates. And the intention was to free the developing community, the developer community, from yet another regulatory burden, yet another cost, because parking spaces don't make money, not compared to having payable tenant space. So this was intended to lower the barriers and help us create more housing. And my gosh, do we need more housing? We need more housing at every price point, but especially at that $500 a month price point. I would really love to build on the work that we have done. I've worked very closely with United Way of the Mid-Willamette Valley to build senior cottage clusters that cost our seniors $500 a month for a tiny home that they can call all their own. So when it comes to land use laws, there's not a lot of flexibility. However, if there was something specific about our land use laws that you had in mind that you think the city should take a position on.
Apologies, Councilor Nordyke. Yeah. The timer was supposed to be 90 seconds for follow-up questions, so I just wanted to keep things fair.
Okay,
and
yeah,
that's
sure.
Time.
Sorry.
It's not your fault at all.
No worries.
I just wanted to jump in. Thank you so much. And then let's make sure we set the clock for 90 seconds for Mayor Hoy's response.
I just want to thank Councilor Nordyke for that great overview. It's really, really helpful. And I don't need to spend time talking about that. I mean, that's the truth. The state pretty much controls what we can do. I do know that it's a problem for development. that we have very strict land use laws that prevent the growth that needs to happen here in Oregon. The governor stated last year we were short 140,000 housing units. Last year we built about 10 or 11,000, I think. The goals that she's setting are beyond our ability to grow with land use laws such as they are. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Okay, so let's move now to our next topic, which is city budget and long-term sustainability. Our next question comes from another Salem resident who recorded this question specifically for tonight's debate.
Salem passed a levy to temporarily restore library, parks, recreation programs, and Center 50 Plus services, but city costs will continue to grow faster than tax collections, even with the levy in place. A levy is a short-term fix. What is your long-term strategy to put Salem on a financially sustainable path so we're not back in this same crisis in 5 years?
And for this question, we will start with Councilor Nordyke.
Okay. All right. So that is a really great question. And I feel that we need to make progress on getting the state to pay its fair share for the public safety services that they use. Every year, by playing host to all of the state of Oregon facilities, every protest, every rally, every march across the political spectrum, it is our first responders who are down there, sometimes putting their own lives at risk in the event that a protest can become violent or volatile. And it costs us millions of dollars to provide that public safety response. Now, I don't blame our first responders. When they get the 911 call, they will go. That is what they are trained to do. And they don't care about how much it costs. That is not the question. The question is about safety of our residents and everyone who comes to visit Salem. But the fact of the matter is, we are so overdue in getting the state to pay its fair share for the millions of dollars it costs each year to play host to every political rally of every persuasion and all the other routine 911 calls that come from having state government buildings in Salem. There are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who commute to Salem every day. And because they don't pay property taxes, they come to work here and then they turn around and go home. They're not paying for the 911 calls that might arise. And so I know that at the local level, we have been fortunate to get bipartisan support. We have support from the Chamber of Commerce. We have support from all of the local legislators, regardless of political persuasion. But we need to work harder. I have a lot of relationships in the legislature. I've been in politics for a long time. I know local legislators across the political aisle. I know legislators throughout the state. I don't know them all personally. I'm not going to try and say I do, but I do have a lot of working relationships. And before I even came to city council, I would go to the legislature to advocate for other needs, advocate for funding for our court system, advocate for low-income legal aid services for women fleeing domestic violence, and so on. So I know what it's like to be in the building and to have positive working relationships. And so if we're going to bring this over the finish line, we need someone who is well-positioned and has a lot of expertise to leverage those relationships and hopefully deliver on that.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke. Mayor Hoy?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Of course. Salem passed a levy to temporarily restore library, parks, recreation programs, and centers for 50 plus services. But city costs will continue to grow faster than tax collections, even with the levy in place. A levy is a short-term fix. What is your long-term strategy to put Salem on a financially sustainable path so we are not back in the same crisis in 5 years?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to speak just a little bit to the community in gratitude for how they came together to pass the levy, to sustain library, Center 50 Plus, and parks. It would not have happened if the entire community hadn't come together. Those three entities formed a PAC. That PAC gathered funding. They were able to get it across the finish line when the community, many in the community, thought that it would never happen because of the failed payroll tax. if you remember. I was first elected because the former mayor said the only option when it gets tough is to force workers to pay the bill. This is never the solution. So let's not accept the premise that the sky is falling simply to justify hurting taxpayers. We must continue the 5-year financial planning strategy. We must conduct regular performance audits, use pilot programs before permanent spending, focus new investments on economic growth and tax base expansion. This is critical. We can't tax our way out of a deficit. We need to grow our way out, and the city needs to be strong, trusted, reliable partner in that growth. The long-term solution is disciplined, prioritized budgeting combined with economic growth. My goal is to build a financial foundation so Salem isn't facing crisis budgets every time we turn around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoey.
All right, we'll look to our audience first for a question. Okay, the question from the audience is this. You mentioned how state law supersedes city laws. What has your connection between with state elected officials up to this point, and how would you amplify Salem's voice in the Capitol? Mayor Hoy, you may respond first in the follow-up.
Thank you. I would just simply like to just read that question one more time.
There might be a typo. That could be it.
Supersedes city laws. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's instead of what has, I believe maybe what was your connection between state elected officials up to this point.
Yeah.
And I think this is in response to Councilor Nordijk's answer, but we'll give Mayor Hoy a chance to answer too.
Yeah.
So go ahead on this question
Yes.
then? Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I had never been to the Capitol for any kind of testimony until last year, my first year as mayor. And in the long session, I was there 21 times, visiting with legislators on both sides, the House and the Senate. I traveled to D.C. And had the experience of visiting our delegation there. Those relationships are important. It's also, for someone like me who hadn't been around it at all, it's eye-opening and it's frustrating because things move slower than I want them to move. You know, as a business owner, we get things done quickly because we have to. So in a bureaucracy, it's frustrating and a bit of a struggle for me, but that's okay. We continue to cultivate, we continue to show up. I learn about how to show up and where and when and what it's important to speak to that represents the city best. So I would just continue to cultivate those relationships on both sides and be able to get things done for Salem. It's a fascinating process I never thought I'd be a part of, but I'm grateful to be there and happy to speak on behalf of the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nordijk?
Thank you so much, and that is a great question. So, and I was trying to think about when was the first time I set foot in the legislature to lobby and to advocate for specific legislative bills. I can't honestly remember the year, but I know it was many years ago. I joined the Oregon State Bar Board of Governors, I want to say in 2016 or 2017. And the Oregon State Bar, that's the mandatory association of lawyers and judges statewide. It's about 19,000 members, including all the retirees. And so every year we would go to the legislature to advocate for legal aid funding for some of the poorest Oregonians imaginable. And I referenced that earlier. So that's advocating for funding for women fleeing domestic relationships that have become dangerous, for seeking protections as tenants, consumer protection, workplace protection, etc. We also advocated for court funding. We also advocated for criminal defense funding. We have, as you probably heard, a crisis in terms of criminal defense funding where people do not have enough lawyers. They're not getting their lawyer, in other words, in criminal defense court. But I digress. But my point is, I have a lot of experience of working with professional lobbyists to develop the talking points, the messaging, how to have those conversations with legislators, and I've been doing that for several years. I have also had experience doing that in my capacity as a nonprofit leader. I've worked with other nonprofits to develop our legislative strategic plan, our plan of action, our call to action. I have done training programs with legislators as well. So that's why I have so many relationships in the building.
Thank you. All right, our next question, and Mayor Hoy, you will respond first. While the mayor doesn't directly manage city departments, the office can help shape priorities and culture. Some in the business and housing community feel the development process in Salem has become adversarial. What would you do as mayor, or what have you done as mayor, to encourage a more collaborative culture between city staff and the people trying to build and invest in Salem?
That is also a great question, and I feel that what we have done in the last year has begun the process of changing the city of Salem and how it functions from the inside out. When I first came into the building, there was quite a lot of dysfunction, and it was honestly painful to watch people unhappy in their work. And we went through a tremendous amount of change with the new leadership of the city manager, Krishna Namburi. Things changed incredibly. Leadership staff was ready to come alongside and to walk with her to create a culture, a changing culture, which was much needed. To have a city become more of a customer service oriented organization rather than an organization that is punitive, seen as punitive most of the time, I think is super important. We need to, as we were talking about the sign code and permitting and those kinds of things, to be able to walk alongside the citizens and the businesses to make sure that what needs to get done gets done in a timely fashion without all the wrinkles and holdups, because a holdup in a building can cost millions and can take years, and we don't need that. We need to be able to grow and move and change, and that's what I feel the current city manager and I and councilor on a pathway to that, a better way of operating. And I'm excited to see how much more we can accomplish. It's been an incredible year. There's so much has changed in a very short amount of time. And according to the city manager, who has 26 years experience, it's happened, more change has happened at a rate she's never seen in a bureaucracy. So I think that's a testament to our council and the current leadership staff at Salem. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nordyke, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
No, that won't be necessary. I know we got all these questions in advance, except for the ones on the comments. So yes, I'm familiar with the question. So everyone in Salem knows we have a housing crisis, right? And our developers are a part of the solution. They want to be a part of the solution. There's no way we get out of this housing crisis without building more housing, full stop. So we need to stop vilifying partners and recognize them as partners, and that includes our developers community. So in terms of overcoming the adversarial impression, we need to make sure that we are training our staff to help developers get to yes, right? I mean, you can have a lot of different conversations as a staff member. You could submit a question, say, can I do this on the property? And if all you do is say no, you're not helping that person explain, well, no, you can't do that, but here's what you could do. Or tell me what it is you're trying to accomplish, and I can help you find the solution. Let's brainstorm. Let's work together. That's the kind of attitude that I want to see from our permitting and planning staff. Now, the reality is that we've had some vacancies in city staff positions. And when you have newer employees, they're not going to be as efficient in processing applications as someone who's been in the job for 10 years. Even the best brand new employee, they've got a learning curve when it comes to our permitting and planning process. So we need to make sure that we are retaining our staff too. If you're training someone up and they're finally getting much more efficient at processing those applications, and then they go leave to work at another planning department that pays better, guess what? We're back to square one. And the mayor is right. Time is money on development. And months of delay cost a lot of money. And what I want is less red tape. I want us to get these projects done as expeditiously as possible, because the need for housing in Salem is so sorely needed. So in other words, I think we can coach our staff to work collaboratively and to build relationships with the developers. So after a time, the developer's like, oh, I'm going to call Tina at the planning office. Like, hey, Tina. Oh, hey, Tom, how's it going? Yeah, what can I help you with today? That's the kind of attitude we can do. And I think our staff are more than willing to be up to the task. We need to empower our workers and help them understand that we are all working in the same direction to build a better Salem.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke.
Okay, so we're gonna check if we have a question from the audience at the moment. Okay, so we don't have one from the audience, but I want to make sure that our voters get a clear takeaway from this. So could you, in 90 seconds or less, give us one clear step you would take to encourage a more collaborative culture between the city staff, and maybe a step you would take within the first 90 days? So I know, there was some great ideas mentioned, but could you give us maybe a big step you could take in the first 90 days? And we would start with Councilor Nordyke.
Sure. Are you talking specific to the development world, housing world?
The development, yes,
Okay,
because
yeah.
I know this is a question that comes up pretty often in conversations, and it came in the questions too. So I would love it to be focused on development.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a listening session with the development and housing community, where we need to hear what the challenges are, and people need to feel comfortable coming forward. I mean, if you come forward and you have a candid complaint about an experience they've had with staff, you don't want that person to then feel, next time I go and work with that staff member, is this going to be really weird? Is this going to be really awkward? There are plenty of ways to structure difficult conversations. You can use skilled moderators. You can use skilled facilitators. You can do surveys. You can do anonymous polls. But we have the ways to do this. So in my opinion, if we want to build a more collaborative culture, it starts with listening. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Councilor. Mayor Hoy?
I think that's a great idea, and I agree. I love those moments when we just 100% agree, and it's like, what are we doing here?
It happens in council all the time.
Yeah, it really does. When we do city business,
Yeah.
it happens all the time.
Yeah.
When it becomes about other issues, it just falls apart. And we do have a great responsibility in this regard, and I am having a lot of those conversations with the building community, with different developers and different folks who are struggling, navigating everywhere from I need a sign and I'm not getting it to I've got the money, I'm ready to buy this property and build this, and you're in my way. So it's a broad spectrum issue, and things are really happening daily. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't have a conversation with someone on this topic. And I am really good about bringing those issues back to the city manager and saying, what are we doing about this? And she, fortunately, is the kind of human that takes that information and is determined to make change, no matter what that looks like. If that's internal, or if that's external, whatever it might be, or if it's a lack of communication or poor communication. All of those things we're working on currently, and I'm every day something new. So it's good. There's progress.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say I love when you two model that collaborative approach, and I think it's a great reminder for all of us here at the table and watching at home that ultimately we are playing on the same team. We're playing for Salem, and we want what's best for our city. So thank you for giving a great example of that. Continuing on the thread of community and unity, this next question came up again and again from people in our community. So here is one of our community members asking it directly.
There is significant political polarization in Salem and across Oregon right now. How do you plan to govern in a way that brings people together rather than deepening division?
All right, so we will start with Councilor Nordyke. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. And what a great question, too. Excuse me. Well, if you take a look at my 6 years on council, it's 6 years of civility in our council meetings. I've worked across the aisle many, many times over the years. Agree to disagree is something that I've modeled in our council meetings over and over again. When I ran for re-election to council in 2024, I was one of the rare candidates to receive endorsements on the left and the right. I received endorsements from, for example, Oregon AFSCME, the AFSCME 2067, that's the local city employees union. But I also received endorsements from the Home Builders Association. I received the endorsement of the Chamber of Commerce. I received the endorsement of the Democrats in the same year for the same race. So I think that didn't happen by accident. That shows that in assessing my first 4+ years in office, that people know that I know how to get things done. I know how to work across the aisle, and I do so without burning bridges. I've had coffee meetings and lunch meetings with local officials on the left and the right. And oftentimes it's when you build those one-on-one relationships where you can overcome that sense of division. I also think that it's really important to bring people together. That means holding regular town halls. I'm one of the few counselors, and I say that because I'm honestly not sure how many, if any of them, do this. I've held a number of town halls for Ward 7 and for South Salem more generally because I want to invite people there. Sometimes it means you have to be in a space where you're not surrounded by just your friends, right? You can't always be surrounded by your own fan base. You have to, when you have a town hall, that means anyone can show up for free. There's no admission ticket price, and they can ask you any question they want on the spot. Now that takes a willingness to meet people and to answer tough questions, and I think that's really important. One of the things that I would love to do as mayor is to host a Spanish language town hall. Nearly a quarter of Salem residents are Hispanic, and many of them speak Spanish as their first language. We need to conduct a town hall entirely in Spanish, not through the process of interpretation, because things are always lost in interpretation. Now, I am proficient in Spanish. I'm not good enough to run that myself, but I will be there with bells on, with a professional interpreter to ensure that we can have a conversation with our Latino community who really needs to hear from us right now. They need our support. So I feel that it's super important that you talk to diverse groups of people with diverse viewpoints. And by the way, when the news media calls you, whether it's Salem Business Journal, Salem Reporter, or Statesman Journal, answer the call.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke. Mayor Hoy, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks so much. First of all, I haven't quite formed this thought yet, but it's very real to me that when we are about city business, we do the right things. It's when it flies outside of that we have difficulty. Not a single person can function well without some sense of stability. And our primary function as a governing body, a nonpartisan governing body, is to manage the people's money. It's that simple for basic services. And so when you don't know how much money you have in the bank, that's hard to do. We've come from, we were supposed to be $23.4 million in the red in deficit this year, and we're not because of the hard work and effort of the council and of leadership staff and staff at the city. We are actually $3.4 million to the green this year. That's not everything. We're not done. The battle isn't over, and we are continuing to find cost savings and other possibilities down the road. But when these positions are supposed to be nonpartisan, and when we don't honor that, we aren't doing the city's business. And so we found some financial stability, and now we need to focus on core services, public safety, infrastructure, sidewalks, roads, parks, and all of those things that help us to feel stable and functional as a city. So my personal bent or goal or grounding is in the stability of our city, from financial through all things public safety, cleanliness to drug enforcement and human trafficking, all across the board. So stability, I think, is the key, and focusing on what is truly our responsibility as a governing body.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to check if we have any questions from the audience. We do have one. Okay, and this question reads, a listening session doesn't seem like a difficult thing to set up. What's preventing this from happening? And we are going to start with Mayor Hoy to answer this question.
Is it 90 seconds?
90 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll be brief. I think it's planning and time. The city, we've been very, very busy for the last 12 months adjusting to all the change in leadership, then having to put up a levy and get it passed, and it did because the people spoke and they said what they wanted. Then coming through, it was June 1st, let's move everybody out of the Civic Center and into separate spaces throughout the city so we can upgrade seismically that space. It's been an unsettling year, and the fact that we have managed to accomplish as much as we have is great. Have we done everything that needs to be done? No. And honestly, that's why I want more time, because the more time I have to settle in and see the progress that we're making, the more time I have to do things like plan an event such as this, where I think it would be great to do this with all of council present, if we can, in I don't know what it would look like. I'm not a party planner, but we can do it. It's just a matter of timing, I think, and planning, commitment.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nordyke.
So that's a great question, and what I will do is I'll talk to the city manager and see if we can set that up. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're moving on to our closing round. So we're going to close tonight with a question submitted by a Salem community member, and frankly, this is one of our favorite questions. It stood out to us because it asks candidates to reflect not just on policy, but on leadership. The question is, what is one thing you genuinely admire about your opponent's work over the past year? And we are going to start with Mayor Hoy.
My opponents, one more time. What is
Yes.
genuinely?
What is one thing you genuinely admire about your opponent's work over the past year?
And I'm just going to jump in real quick. For this particular question, the response time is 90 seconds
Thanks
instead of
for
the regular 3
clarification.
minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, Councilor Nordyke does have a tremendous amount of experience in her role. And in my first year on council, she sat to my left in her seat, and she was incredibly helpful to me. When I had questioned and didn't know how the operation was going about or when it is I should raise my hand or speak, she was super good about sharing her wisdom and knowledge with me on that, and I greatly appreciated it. So her knowledge and her ability to enter a room like nobody else. I mean, she's an accomplished person and carries herself in that way, and I just appreciate the confidence that she brings to a conversation, and I have benefited from all of that. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Nordyke.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mayor Hoy. That was really kind. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's see. And this is a question that should be asked more often, right? Can you imagine if this happened at the national level?
It should.
It's
happened once or twice before.
Has it?
Yes, not always to the best of responses,
Oh,
but
no.
I think that's a quality of leadership too, right? To be able to, to speak to this.
Absolutely. No, I think there are other councils who could take a page from us. Portland City Council took them, 8 to 9 hours to select a council president. We selected Councilor Linda Nishioka to serve again as our council president in 5 minutes, I think, and that includes the time it took to call roll. So, I think that there's a lot that we should be proud of. Now, Mayor Julie, what I appreciated about you is that, when you became mayor, there was, leading up to you becoming mayor in the campaign, in the mayoral race, there was a lot of talk of Salem doesn't have a budget problem and has a spending problem. And there was a lot of skepticism and distrust of the city budget, that surely it must be bereft with fraud and waste and needless government spending. And that, I think, was part of what doomed the payroll tax. I voted against that for a lot of reasons. That was not one of them. The reasons that I voted against, I posted on my Facebook page, so I'm not going to go into detail, but basically I thought it would penalize workers too much while wealthy retirees wouldn't pay a dime. But once you became mayor and we had our oversight committee,
Thank you,
take a
Counselor.
look.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, the time is up.
you got on board and endorsed the levy, and I think that helped it pass.
Thank you, Councilor Nordyke.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't have any follow-up questions. So, yeah.
Oh, yes, it's my closing statement. Sorry, my bad. Now we will give each candidate 2.5 minutes for your closing statements. So this is your time, uninterrupted, to speak directly to the people of Salem. We will reverse the order from the opening introduction. So Mayor Hoy, you will give your closing statement first. And again, you each have 2.5 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Yerla, to you and to Ellen, to Councillor Nordyke for being willing to be here today and try something different for Salem. I think that's really exciting that we've done something new here, and I think it's good, valuable. So thank you. Serving as mayor in the past year has been an incredible honor. It's also reinforced something I've always believed about Salem, that this community cares deeply about its future. I was inspired to write something this morning, and I'm going to go off my script. Right people, right places, at the right time, for the greatest success. I really do believe that I'm in the right place at the right time, right now, for Salem, for good reason. As my friend Rory sat with me and spoke from his heart when he asked me to run for City Council, Julie Hoy, you've been the same person my whole life. As much as I don't want you anywhere near those spaces or those people, I think Salem needs you. That was the second step in my journey. Bottom line is, I'm a child of God, and I'm doing His work, and I believe that, and I will not waver from that. I'm not the most eloquent when it comes to debates. I'm not good at rambling on and on. I'm good at listening, and I'm good at learning and allowing others to shine. That's what's working at Salem right now. Staff has joy in their work. When you're making progress and you're improving the city you live in, that change is welcome and needs to be fostered and nurtured. And I really want the opportunity to continue that journey. I can't know everything about everything there is. And knowing that gives me the freedom to seek wisdom from those around me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Nordyke, your turn.
All right,
2.5
great.
minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. Thank you to What's Happening in Salem. Thank you to Capital Community Media. And thank you, Mayor. I ran out of time in my long meandering response, but one of the things I also appreciate about you is that you always make sure that every member of council has a chance to be heard. And in past years, as you know, that has not always been the case. So thank you for that. So I feel a little bit better about my response from earlier. And yes, I was willing to use my precious time for shameless self-promotion to say thank you, because that's worth it. And you've earned that. Folks, Salem, Oregon, and the entire country is struggling with a K-shaped recovery. At the top of the K going up are higher income people getting more income. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And that is going to impact every decision that we make as a city, as a state, and as a nation. So as we make decisions about what Salem's budgetary future looks like, we want to make sure that every voice is respected. And it doesn't matter whether you are a child who is struggling with your second grade homework, whether you are a low-income senior living on a paycheck, whether you're a successful person, it doesn't matter. Your vote counts the same. Your voice counts the same. And there are a lot of people living in fear and anxiety and uncertainty. As someone who works with foster youth for a living, I can assure you there are a lot of people living in poverty in Salem. And every decision that I make as a member of City Council takes into consideration the voiceless. When I was growing up, no one believes me when I say this, but I was painfully shy as a kid. I had a hearing disability. Salem-Keizer School District put me on the short bus with children with severe disabilities. I didn't know how to talk to those kids. They didn't know how to talk to me, but clearly I didn't belong with the quote-unquote normal kids. So over time, I was bullied, I was intimidated, and I was isolated. That's why I'm a fighter today, because I am a champion for the voiceless, and I never want anyone to go through what I went through as a child. And that's why I fight so hard for our low-income residents in Salem. We need more housing. We need to protect our library, our Center 50 Plus, and our parks. We need public safety where everyone feels comfortable picking up the phone to call 911, whether it's a mental health emergency, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's the commission of a crime. We want Salem to be safe for everyone. Please visit electvanessanordyke.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Julie Hoy and Councilor Vanessa Nordyke for being here tonight and for engaging in this important conversation about the future of Salem. I'm sure that everyday citizens, just like us, really appreciate having the opportunity of hearing directly from our local leaders. And a big thank you to our sponsors, the Mid-Valley Association of Realtors and Jason Fleming of Neo Home Loans, for helping make this debate possible and supporting civic engagement in our community.
Thank you also to Capital Community Media for streaming this live and keeping it free and accessible for every Salem resident. And most importantly, thank you to the people of Salem who submitted questions, tuned in, and showed up tonight. Your voice is the whole point. As a reminder, the primary election is May 19th. The deadline to register to vote is April 28th. So pull out your phones, set yourself a calendar reminder. Again, May 19th for the primary election. April 28th is the deadline to register to vote. You can register online through the Oregon Secretary of State's website or in person at Marion County Elections, located at 555 Court Street Northeast.
And for more coverage of local issues and community conversations like this one, follow What's Happening Salem on Instagram and subscribe to the newsletter. I'm Yirla Ruby Gonzalez Nolan alongside Ellen Yin. Thank you for joining us tonight, and good night, Salem.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.